Hey, it's the Bright Queen. I have a lot to say, so buckle up and chime in. The first message I was getting for today, which is April 9th, although this can be timeless, is that contracts that are no longer in shadow are being given justice via divine removal slash refusal. Um, I started watching this show called Something Very Bad Is Gonna Happen on Netflix. Don't know if I'm gonna finish it or not. And then yesterday I went to see the movie The Drama with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. And with each of these things, it was kind of like um, instinctive, very intuitive. I haven't been to the movies in a while, but I went to see this one, and it was for free. Like I got it paid for, so it was like very much important. And I noticed the similarity in theme between the movie The Drama and the show Something Very Bad Is Gonna Happen. In both of them, there's information that's revealed right before, oh my gosh, my voice. Give me a second. There's information that's revealed right before the wedding. Like, I think in The Drama, it's like 3 days before. And then in Something Very Bad Is Gonna Happen, it's 5 days before. And I was like, what's this theme, coming up with like information being revealed like right before a wedding, and it being in both situations this very frightening thing to the characters. Like getting married to this person turns into something that's frightening. And so the message I got from that was that contracts that are no longer in shadow are being given justice via divine removal slash refusal. And what I'm kind of seeing it as in my mind is people who were like in this illusion, in this glamour sort of ordeal, are being shown the truth of their deals or their contracts with someone, so that they can choose then to forfeit or renegotiate, I guess, depending on like who it is and all the little things with that. Excuse me. If you're still watching this, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I have a lot of notes. All this information just came through. And I apologize in advance if it's like out of order and messy. This is literally, I just got all this information, so just bear with me. So I'm sure everybody's seen the thing with Artemis 2. And I was just like, the first thing I was thinking is like, this is fake. I didn't really feel too much into why they were doing this. I noticed that the other day when I was trying to use YouTube, it kept glitching. It had all these glitches. And then I saw, oh, they're live streaming this thing. It's over 500,000 people supposedly watching this live stream. That's why YouTube is glitching, and that was on the 7th, if I'm not mistaken, April 7th, 4/7/10, which is 11/10, which is 21, which is the world card, which is a card that Solara was speaking about the other day in one of her videos. And she was saying that the world card is the end of a cycle. It marks the end of a cycle, whereas the wheel card represents a change or a shift in the cycle. Like this year is the year 10, a change or a shift in the cycle. She said the world card marks the end of a cycle. So it's interesting that that day equals to 21, that they were doing the live stream, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not. So I started looking into like what this could mean, and I was like, oh, Artemis, that sounds familiar. Then I remembered in 2022, I had this very powerful friend at the time. So I was always getting these downloads and these messages and these activations. And I remember I fussed with her about Artemis because I remember she mentioned it. And I was like, why are you talking about Artemis? Like, I'm the one that, like, because I was, being very sassy. I was like, I'm the one that was talking about Artemis because I had no idea who that was. It was just something I was hearing, and I thought it was a dude. And she was like, "Oh yeah, Artemis is like." She was like, "You did mention it first," and then she was saying Artemis is this, motherly figure in Greek mythology. So I didn't even know anything about it. That's how you know it was genuinely a channel message. And you don't have to believe anything that I'm saying, but this did happen. I speak truth. This was in 2022. Maybe 2023, but I'm pretty sure 2022 when I had this conversation with this friend. So it's interesting that that happened in 2022 and then it's Artemis 2, something. I'm going to say a lot of stuff like this. So if you're watching this, hi, welcome to my world. I didn't know this, but Solara from Solara Speaks, who I repost a lot, she mentioned recently that it's a gift or a talent to be able to recognize patterns in this way. And my best friend, my partner that I'm close to, he always says how like I catch like every little thing, like I'm able to pick up on these patterns. So this is the patterns that I'm picking up on. Artemis 2, I got that message in 2022. There's something about that. I think what I'm getting now is that it's like this idea of like two mothers. Like one is the true mother and the other one is a false mother, because Artemis in Greek mythology is supposed to be this lovely protective mother, and she has this bow and arrow, and then obviously they went around the moon, which I will mention, even though they didn't go nowhere, really, but they say, they went around the moon. The moon is really deeply connected to the mother, connected to feminine, cycles in the body, which I've been experiencing, even though it's not my time of the month, these hormonal shifts. So another thing that I brought up yesterday, which because I heard Talara mention it, was the idea of Cancer and how Cancer, in terms of the zodiac sign, in terms of the energy of Cancer, it's this very mothering energy, and yet it's been inverted to where you type in on Google or Bing or whatever you use, you type in Cancer, it's going to show you this deadly, disease that you just supposedly get from nowhere and somewhere, So it's like this inversion of the mother. It's trained us to associate Cancer, the mothering energy, with death, with something that eats away with you, with something that is unwanted and unprovoked, that's there anyways, So that's what I'm getting with the name Artemis, is that like it's this intentional kind of inversion of the mother. I'm going to connect all of this information. As I said, I speak the truth. So yesterday, which was April 8th, 2026, and if you do it in the numbers in terms of the US, it's 4, 8, 10, or 04010, In terms of you add 2026, it goes 10. If you look at it like that way, all the numbers increase 9:22 on the clock by 2, like 4 times 2, and then 8 plus 2. And then if you add them together, it equals 22. So they're all divisible by 2 is what I really meant to say at the beginning. They're all divisible by 2. 4 is divisible by 2. 8 is divisible by 2. 10 is divisible by 2. And if you add them all together, it equals 22. But also if 4 times 2 is 8, and then 8 plus 2 is 10. There again is that thing of 2. 2 is a number that's strongly connected with contracts, which is what I said at the beginning. It's like, it's a chance, it's the shadow of something, which I mentioned in my video yesterday, is being revealed so that you can get out of a contract now knowing the full terms. It's like a veil is being lifted, should you choose. So anyways, yesterday, 4/8/2026 or 4/8/10, Congressman Tim Burchett, which I haven't even gone into his name. This is all just stuff that I just got, like, I could go on for hours because I'm sure it's all here, these truths, these connections, but I didn't even go into his name. He's a congressman. He went on TMZ yesterday is when I saw it. I don't know when he actually went on there, but I saw it yesterday, saying that aliens are real and they have made human contact, which, not to get ahead of myself, I said this last year in 2025, in around the May, June time. I went live twice saying that they were preparing, the world to introduce these supposed aliens to. And I will go and comb through my lives and link them in the comments, so you can go check those out should you choose to do so. Anyways, he said this on TMZ, and I was like, I'm not surprised, because I said this was going to happen. And my intuition led the way. So instead of looking into his name, which, I'm looking at it now, it kind of sounds like Tim Burton, Tim Burchett, Tim Burton. And we know Tim Burton is known for what he's known for, the Addams Family, Anyway, with Morticia. Anyway, he was born on August 25th, 1964. Yesterday in my video, I did a channel message and I got the message about August. And I remembered as I was writing all this stuff down and I finished it and I was kind of forming in my head that Darius J. Wright mentioned something happening in August. I forget what it was. Maybe it's about health. I don't know. But he mentioned something about August this year, 2026. This man was born August 25th, 1964. Now, before I go into this, because I'm going to go into this, he was the former mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. When I looked him up, because I wanted to make sure like it was an actual congressman on TMZ, not that, who knows. But anyways, that stood out to me, that he was the former mayor before he became, this congressman. And the word Knox is important to me from my childhood. And I'll say why in a little bit, but the word Knox, it basically is from original translation to mean living near a hill. And we all know, like, churches tend to be built on top of hills because can be pyramids, under the hills. It could be something sacred underneath that hill. That's why it's a hill, something buried underneath that's sacred, that's being used, being taken advantage of by whoever's choosing to occupy on top of it. And that connects to the Substack post that I recently wrote about religion. So go check that out. I think it's called "If You Losing Yourself to Religion Means to Lose Yourself to Religion." It's linked. I'll also include the link in the comments. So check that out if you haven't read it yet. But anyways, the word Knox, I never forget this event that happened in my childhood. When I was in middle school, I had this classmate named Brianna Knox, and I told her that I was going to Chicago and I was going to be around these NFL players from the Chicago Bears. And one of the guys named on the team at the time was named Johnny Knox. And I remembered him very vividly because he got injured very badly around that time, very badly. And he was excruciatingly handsome, in my opinion. And so she said that that was her cousin because they had the same last name. I go there. My mom was like, oh, Jabria knows her classmate, knows you. And I tell him the name and he's like, no, I don't know her. And I was so embarrassed. And when I got back, she told me she was lying. And she was like, you didn't know that I was lying? And I'm like, no. Because I was so, naive and, pure. And I still am. But this just goes to show you, like, this word knock stands very vividly in my brain. So I don't know the extent of this yet, besides the connection with the hill. Anyways, next part. My intuition was telling me to look into what happened in 1964, because as we know, this is how they work, those beings. It's in terms of these codes and numbers and these sections of time. So a lot of stuff happened in there. I'm going to read it off real quick, and then I'm going to do like a little synopsis. So the Boston Strangler murdered the final victim. The link between smoking and cancer was official. Cancer. Dr. Strangelove came out. The Beatles arrived in New York. Muhammad Ali got his first knockout, getting like the world title or something. Jack Ruby was sentenced to death for murdering Lee Oswald. The strongest earthquake in U.S. history struck in Alaska. The Ford Mustang debuted. It's the year of the fire horse. The Ford Mustang debuted. The Beatles charts were broken. Like it said they had a stranglehold. This is how it was described. A stranglehold on the #1 spot. They got kicked out of that #1 spot by Louis Armstrong with a song called Hello Dolly. The serial killer Pied Piper of Tucson, something about him, I didn't write all of it down. I think that's when he like first killed his first victim. After that, the KKK killed 3 civil rights activists. After that, the Civil Rights Act was signed. Senator Barry Goldwater was nominated for president. And that was connecting to me because yesterday someone told me about this Dr. Barry. So that was interesting. Senator Barry Goldwater was nominated for president. Ranger 7 took photographs of the moon. 3 more activists were killed. The Gulf of Tonkin resolution to expand military presence in South or in East Asia was made, basically given the president, which was, who was it at the time? John, I know his name, Johnny something. I don't know. The president at the time, he was given like full like reign to do whatever he wanted, something like that. Ian Fleming, the creator of the James Bond series, died. Charlie Wilson, the train robber, escaped from prison. The Beatles kicked off their U.S. tour in San Francisco. The USSR led the space race. Martin Luther King Jr. won a Nobel Peace Prize on October 14th. DC residents cast the first presidential votes since the 1800s because an amendment was passed in, I believe, 1961. And the Battle of, I'm going to chop this up, Bengia begins. That was the last thing that like happened that was big that year, supposedly. So that's just like a lot of stuff. What stuck out to me was a lot of death happened, specifically a lot of murder, and it seemed like it happened in threes, like uh Lee Oswald, um the three KKK kill like murders, um and then the three more activists killed, but it was like unknown, and then Lee Oswald, the Pied Piper murderer, and then there was another person, yeah, the Boston Strangler. Anyway, so that happened. And another thing, because I didn't even write all of it down because it was a lot. Obviously, I didn't write every single thing that they said in this article, but a big thing was the fucking Beatles. The Beatles were all the rage in 1964. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna peep there. Mind you, I don't really know nothing about the Beatles. I know "Here Comes the Sun," do 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 do, which also connects, which I'll get to in a minute. Um, but anyways, I'm doing this research on the Beatles. I'm like, the Beatles, the Beatles, the Beatles. So I'm like, there's something about them. I type in Beatles conspiracy theory. First one pops up is Paul McCartney. I didn't even know Paul McCartney was in the Beatles. This is how you know I don't know nothing. I was born in 1999. I'm young. Don't judge me. Last night, because I'm like, Paul McCartney, last night I was on the phone and I just started singing, "Maybe it's the way you love me all the time." And I was like, what is that from? Out of nowhere. I wasn't watching like TV. I hadn't listened to this music, like nothing. Out of nowhere, I just hear this song and I'm like, who the fuck is this? Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney wrote that song that I channeled last night. Maybe it's the way you love me all the time. And it's from, the way I remember it is from this movie called Joyful Noise. And it's about this church choir. Okay? Joyful Noise. Okay? Anyways. Okay, how do I connect all of this? I wrote a bunch of notes. So apparently there's a lot of conspiracy with Paul McCartney. You can go look into that yourself. I will get into a little bit of what I think it means. Hopefully I don't forget to, but I'm gonna move on for now. Just keep that in your head. The Beatles, the Paul McCartney, the song. So remember how I said that last year I got this message about them coming forward and saying that there were aliens around. Let me get a drink actually. I was saying basically that they were going to introduce them via some celebrity or like famous person, and that it would be like a very like, try to pass it off as like, this is normal. I haven't done any more research because I didn't even do research to begin with on this guy, Tim Burchett. But from what I'm feeling, like it didn't make the big headline news. He was obviously on TMZ. So it's like very like subtle. Where I was getting this information from was this show with Samuel L. Jackson. I always forget the name of it, but it's on Disney Plus. Like he had his own little sideshow from that. But where I really got it from was last summer in 2025. I saw two movies. I saw Captain America, Brave New World. Okay. And then the second thing that like really did her in, if I'm not mistaken, this was the order, was the movie Fantastic Four. So I'm like, oh yeah, like Fantastic Four was the other movie where I was getting this message that they're going to introduce like something, you know, they're going to try to say something. And again, I'll link both of those in the comments. So I went before, I'm sorry, I told you this was going to happen. When I was watching the conspiracy theory, which I'll also try to link the video I watched specifically, the guy said at the beginning, the Beatles, the Fab Four. And I was like, holy shit, did people call them the Fab Four? Because it's four of them. And I'm like, that sounds like the Fantastic Four. So I go and I watch like a recap of the Fantastic Four movie, which I've forgotten what it was called, but it was called The Fantastic Four First Steps, which makes sense because there's a baby that's involved in this thing, and the Beatles have that album with the baby. Anyways, get this. First thing I noticed in the recap is that it's basically in an alternate reality because they already have all these Fantastic Four movies. This one was in an alternate reality, a different Earth. And this Earth was called 828 Earth. I didn't really pay too much mind to it until I watched a different recap where he was breaking down that it was the birthday of some guy. And it was August 28th. And I'm like, there we go again. August. Right there. Then in the other, because it was two Fantastic Four videos I watched to remember the movie, the guy says it's based in 1964. Tim Burchett was born August 25th, 1964. So I'm guessing something in this window between the 25th and the 28th, maybe both. I don't know. Anyways, 1964 adds up to 20. That's something that I just mathed out. So yeah. Okay, so the first time I typed in the Fantastic Four, like I wanted to find the recap, it was like already pre-written and it said like post-credit scene. So I just clicked on that first. So technically I watched 3 Fantastic Four First Steps recap videos, but this one was a recap. It was literally just that ending scene in the First Steps. Because, you know, Marvel always does that like post-credits shit. I'm like, okay, this is popping up. So I'm like, I'm supposed to watch this. I watch it and I remembered it. It's the mom and the little boy. It's 5 years later. 5 again, 2025, August 25th. Anyways, it's 5 years later. Mom's gonna catch the little boy and she was like reading him a book. They finished the book and she's like, oh, let's like read something else. Or I know you want to read something else. And the robot like shows her a book. He's like, what about this one? And that book is called The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. Remember what I just said about them introducing, you know, aliens? The book is called The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin. Anyways, I'm gonna let that go. And she's like, oh, no, I know he loves that book. And it's supposed to be this joke because it's a thick, like, science-y book and he's just 5. And she's like, how about something a little more fun? And she turns the book as she's saying this, that she just picked up, and it's more obviously a children's book. Like, let's do something more fun. The book is called, and you can go look this up for yourself. You can go see this for yourself. I paused the screen and I was like, holy shit. It's called A Fly Went By. The only reason I know this is relevant because it just so happened to be playing the news on my TV. I never watched the news, but they had it on in the TV downstairs, and they're calling it the Artemis 2, like the trip a flyby the moon. And here it is, the same movie where I said they're going to be doing some shit because I saw this movie. And in that movie, in the post-credit scenes, she has this book and it's called A Fly Went By. Okay. So some other things I'm going to get into real quick before, I remember I said I was going to touch on something with the Paul McCartney stuff. Okay. So I wrote down some notes. So in this First Steps, the Fantastic Four First Steps movie, they are so beloved in the world. It's like they're like the top nacho celebrities is the Fantastic Four. Everybody fucking loves them. And then one day this Silver Surfer comes and she's like, hey, Galactus is gonna come and consume this world. You're next. And so they go and try to like talk to the guy, right? And this is all while Sue, the invisible woman, because remember I was telling you about how there's like two women and one of them is like the false mother, and how I was saying about the shadow contracts, the unseen coming to light. Sue is the invisible woman, so she represents kind of like this false mother, I will say. She's pregnant. They go and talk to this guy. His name is Galactus. And he's like, I can see the baby in your belly and he can replace me because I have an unsatiable hunger. And it's like torture for me to have to constantly consume like this. So that child's going to replace me. And if you give me the child, then I'll leave Earth alone, you know. And the Galactus makes her have the child, like go into labor right then, and they give birth in space, which might come up, I don't know, but it was weird. She gave birth in space, which doesn't exist, you know, how they say it anyways. But if you think about the truth of what I feel it to be, is water gave birth in water, but once again in the space is like imaginary. It's again this false birth from this false mother. But anyways, so they go back to Earth, and this is when like everybody kind of like turns against them. Like all the people, all the fans that adored them turn against them because they want them to turn in their child, Franklin, which, you know, that's also very important name in American history, to Galactus. And remember how I was telling you about the Beatles and their chart was broken? That's what it said. Their chart was broken is how I wrote it, like water being broken, by Louis Armstrong with his song Hello Dolly. It was very similar, like even though the Beatles didn't like have a fall, you know, in 1964, from what I know. It's like that fall from grace, or that broken thing happened with them. And then Sue fixed it by going and like being humble in front of the world. And that's when they allowed them to be back in control again over the world. These four people. And everybody just consents to building these bridges to teleport Earth to somewhere else. Like they just agree with whatever they say. I remember being flabbergasted by that. Like they just agreed, like all the places in the world just agree to build these weird bridges to move the whole planet, right? Anyways, the bridges failed, obviously, because you can't do that. But anyways, the bridges failed in the movie. They used the child as bait, and they sent everyone underground to this, I think it's called subterranean city, something like that. They sent all the people underground. So this might also be something that comes up, something with people needing to go underground, or something being revealed like underground. I think it'll be more like maybe something to do with fear and like saying to go underground, because I was watching The Legacy of Monsters, and I didn't finish that either because I just need to get certain messages from it. And in that show on Apple, they had to go underground every time like the beast could strike, whatever. And then Sue died, and the invisible woman Sue died, and she was revived by the child. Like she came back to life. This is important. So when I was looking into like the Beatles, I kept thinking about like, what the fuck are like Beatles? Like, and I looked into like Beatles and what they represent in Kemet, Egypt. And it was saying like, there's not much, you know, with Beatles, except for the dung beetle, which is the first one that came to my mind. And there's the mourning sun god named Khepri. I'm gonna probably mess it up. Kepri, I'm gonna say. And they were saying that this god is basically responsible for rolling the sun, up into the sky. Now that connects back to what I was saying. The one song that I know is "Here Comes the Sun," do 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 do. The Beatles, like with this association with this god who rolls the sun, and the beetle, the dung beetle, is associated with this god that rolls the sun, like the dung beetle rolls its dung. So anyway, the hieroglyph for Kemet, for beetle, Beetle, is Kheper, Kepler. Sorry about that, but it means to come into being or to transform. In other words, to like give rebirth, that's also something that the beetles, the dung beetle, represents in ancient Egypt. And Kemet is to give rebirth. Su was revived by the child. So back to Paul McCartney. The biggest conspiracy theory that I could find about the Beatles that was the most like hyped was about Paul McCartney being gone. I believe in 1966. Everybody thinks he left and then he was replaced by someone in 1966. And so this connects to like this false child, like being birthed in space, like from nowhere, from nothing. So kind of what I think all of this is saying is that something is happening in August. It will be to do with 4 beings, or maybe it'll be over 4 days. There's something with this number 4, and it'll directly connect to something that happened in 1964. And I also feel like there's something connected with all of this, with a child or someone kind of being like rebirthed or transformed or to brought into being. And I feel like this will be something that's shown. Like, I don't know how. It could be something where like someone who is supposed to have passed is shown to be alive. Or it'll be like, oh wow, look at this new thing where we can revitalize, but it'll be a hoax. I'm not sure, but this is all the information that I was getting just on this first little thing that I did. And to conclude, I'll return to the beginning. Contracts that are no longer in shadow are being given justice via divine removal / refusal. And I'm going to take a moment to see if there's anything else I need to say. I'm eating the number 24. Drink lots of water. Get lots of rest. Like if there's going to be movement, if you need to be active in a more like leisurely, considerate way, a way that gives like pace to things. Pay attention to the way in which the presidency is contrived, like the steps of it, like because that amendment was passed, supposedly DC got to vote, and that's why they got to put Lyndon B. Johnson in the presidential chair instead of Barry Gold, whatever. Like it's like step by step by step by step. Like pay attention to the steps. Next one I'm seeing is there is a star bright landing soon. Okay, and I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you've watched it up to this point, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment if this resonated, and feel free to email me or to donate if you feel guided to support my work, because this is my work. Okay, I love you and I'll see you later.